Cool. So now we'll move on to the second new team, Lucknow Super Giant, a reincarnation of another Super Giant, I guess. They got a steal in Bishnoi, right? Like how Varun Chakravarti for KKR was overvalued. Now Bishnoi seems like a steal. He's in the Indian setup now. He's not uncapped anymore. So that was a really smart move, I felt. And then you got Stoinis and Rahul, which they did what they had to do. They were like, I think they're like, okay, right? At their price points. Now, what do you think they did in the auction? Like, how do you feel? How do you feel like they went about it?
I think for the new franchise, I think they did a wonderful job. They have a great core again, very good first 11. I think they overpaid for bowlers like Mark Wood. I wouldn't have paid so much for Mark Wood. You don't know what you can get. If it comes good, great. But they've kind of made up with their backups, as you see, are not really big names, but they're names which can kind of come in and give those performance when you don't expect. So again, their first 11 is amazing. They have a lot of options, a lot of things the captain can do with, play with. We could even see KL Rahul of 2018 now, because there's a lot of batting depth. He can kind of play his natural game and he becomes very useful. So I think they are good first 11. One of the teams which had a great auction. Again, I'm worried about the backups. So from a backups and depth point of view, I'm not very convinced. If Wood goes, I have to deal with Dushan Chamira and Kyle Mayers. If Holder doesn't turn up, which he is not going to initially for the first 1 week, Holder and Wood may not be available, then what do you do? Then my 11 suddenly looks a bit different. You have Kyle Mayers and you have Mayers may also not be available because of the West Indies. So you have to play Evan Lewis. How will you play Evan Lewis? He doesn't fit into that team in his spot. So these are challenges, but the first 11 is deadly.
Got it. Right. And then from an auction, buy standpoint, like Holder was coming in with like red hot form, right? Like he did really well against best England. He did well in the ODI series with India as well. Do you think that was a fair price point? Like given he's an overseas all rounder, like 8.75?
It it seems like a fair price point, but I expected him to go more than 10, to be honest. I thought he'll touch the 10-11 bracket, but people have been smarter. And also, he came in too early, I guess. So
Mm-hmm.
people had to keep a lot of money for Ishan Kishan's and Avesh Khan's and Deepak Chahar's. So those were challenges but yeah, I did expect Holder to go pretty high.
Cool. Makes sense. And what would be the rating for like Lucknow Super Giants?
I think I'll also give them a 9.
9. Got it. They got most of their bases covered. At least the first 11, like at least in my opinion, they have the strongest first 11 amongst all teams. That's how I see it because they got a bunch of Indian players at fair prices. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's construct the playing 11 then.
Before you go on to the playing 11, Gaurav,
Mhm.
so just a question. It's like they had a good coaching staff and the support staff. So I think Gautam Gambhir being there, being a two-time IPL champion, having a lot of experience, like how crucial were his inputs in picking this side? I think it was like what are your opinions on that?
Obviously, I don't know what went there, but Gautam Gambhir, from my experience, is very opinionated, and that's very good because he's very focused. He knows what he wants, and there are not too many people he needs to convince, which is I can see his stamping all over. And Andy Flower is a great coach. He's won a lot of short form tournaments. So Flower and Gambhir may be two kind of extremes in there. The way they approach things, Flower is a very data driven person. Gambhir is not so data driven. He's very instinctive. But I can see some good picks there. They've done some logical things. So I guess it seems to be working out well.
And last time when Pune Super Giants were there, when they didn't get their performance right, Dhoni was replaced as captain and it was given to Steven Smith. Do you see the same thing happening to Rahul? Do you foresee that?
No, I think that's a different proposition altogether. I think we'll have to see. Rahul is too young in his captaincy yet, and I think I don't know who are the other candidates there anyway. So I would still stick to KL Rahul.
Yeah, and also last time, like to give them credit, it felt like a band-aid removal sort of thing. But they did make the finals. They didn't have a trophy to show for it. They came really close. It went till the last ball. If they had won, we would all have been like thinking differently to an extent, right? So Yeah. Cool. So let's go to the playing 11 now for them. So who do you got? You open
I
with.
think again Rahul Kock opens, Manish at 3,
Mhm.
uh, Huda at 4, Krunal at 5, Stoinis at 6, Holder at 7,
Couldn't
Huda
put
and
Stoinis at the top.
who?
Stoinis, like he did well for.
Yeah, but Gumby is openly said that he's looking at him as a finisher, so I look at it as that.
In school. Now we have to find four bowlers, right?
Mark Wood, Bishnoi, Ankit Rajput.
And Avesh, I guess, right?
Oh, Avesh is there. Sorry, Avesh goes in there, and I think now you already have 7 bowlers already. So I can either play a batsman in there, or I can play a K Gautam to make sure that I have more batting depth, or I can even play one of the other newcomers, Manan Vora or someone. It doesn't matter, or the Nadeem for that matter. So do they have a left arm spinner? Yes, they do. They do have a right arm leggy. They do have a right arm off spin. Yeah, they have all bases covered. Yeah, this would be the 11 I would go with.
Yeah, and this makes sense because there are so many options here, right? They can play him. They can even play like Karan Sharma as well, right? So,
Yeah. So when you look at the kind of, I think it is KRAN only. The other Karan Sharma went to Bangalore.
oh, okay. Oh, he's the lucky mascot, right? This is like
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing about the see here the problem is depth. What happens if suddenly Kunal is not there?
Hmm.
What happens? It just affects the balance so much. What happens? Huda is not a 4 over bowler. Kunal is. So Kunal becomes very key there. What happens if Stoinis is not there now? Who's your
Hmm.
replacement for Stoinis?
Yeah, like
They're, in their eyes, it's Kyle Mayers, fine. But you know what? That doesn't suddenly look good. So that's where the depth is a problem. Holder and Wood are not going to be available. Now change that to Chamira and say, I think Chamira and they have to play Lewis. I don't see any other option. And they picked only like 7 overseas players. I would have
Hmm.
ideally asked them to pick 8 because of so and so issues, right? So that is where I think their auction could have been even more complete. But they kind of missed a trick there. Why would you not pick an overseas player in your 8th overseas when you have that opportunity? I think that's a pretty big miss.
yeah, and also like the player availability, injury, all those are out of your control, and there's the added aspect of like COVID as well, right? Like
Yeah.
cool.
How about the prospect of Huda and Krunal Pandya playing together after what happened in Baroda?
I'm sure they would have like kind of discussed that and they would have realized that it's a professional setup and they need to kind of play both.